So as we turn to Daniel chapter 7, the first of 4 visions, we're going to start fairly simply. All right, we want to start with the simple, most obvious things, and then move into a few things that are more complex in some of the later videos. So let's just start with a very simple comparison between the vision in chapter 2, the dream that is, that Nebuchadnezzar had, because chapter 2 and chapter 7 parallel each other structurally within the book. Remember, there's 2 halves to the book, 5 stories in each of the 2 halves. We compared chapters 1 and 6 for the last few videos. Now we're looking at chapters 2 and 7. And we're just looking at the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, what he saw versus what Daniel sees in this vision. This is not a dream, it's a vision that God gives him in chapter 7. And we're not trying to interpret what this all means, other than the basic idea that these are obviously referring to governments. But even in that respect, we're not really looking to try and interpret them much. Just try to do a simple comparison and contrast between the 2. So I know that the print's a little small here, but you can at least see the 2 passages side by side. And we see right away that over here, just a reminder, we have this Colossus image. It's clearly a human image, and it's made of various very bright metals glistening out in the desert as Nebuchadnezzar sees it in his dream. And it has a head of fine gold, and then it has the chest and arms of silver, and then it has middle and thighs of bronze, and its legs of iron, and its feet, and then it also speaks later of its toes. Its feet and toes, partly of iron, partly of clay. And we can see right away, just a reminder, this is just supposed to, just refreshing your memory, that the image was more noble at the head, at the top, and then as it went farther down, you went from gold and then to silver, to bronze, and to iron. Not many girls want an iron engagement ring, okay? So there's a reason gold is up at the top. It's more noble and, of course, more visible in the statue. And then but the other side of these metals is that they got stronger as you went down toward the legs. The legs are iron. And so that would help hold up the statue and create stability. And so they got stronger until you got to the feet and the toes. There's a few mentions to the 10 toes. And then it's sort of a mess. It's iron, but it's mixed with earthenware, with pottery, clay. And that's not going to be very stable in your feet, in your toes. All right. So that's one side of it. And if we go over then and compare that to the beasts, the 4 beasts in the vision in chapter 7. Well, you start with a lion, then you go to a bear, then to a leopard, and then to a 4th beast, which is such a horrifying beast that it isn't likened to any other kind of known animal. So you see right away, a lion with eagle's wings is obviously more noble as an animal. Lots of countries like to make the eagle, or one particular country likes to make the noble eagle. They're not mascot, but is the national bird. I know there's a way to say this, but I can't think of it. Anyway, so there's a lion and an eagle, and a lion with eagle's wings, and this is very noble. And then as you go down from the bear, and then to the leopard, and then to this beast, which is so transmogrified, it's not even like any other beast, then they become less noble. But at the same time, what happens is they get stronger, okay? Bear following the lion. In the Roman venationes, in the fights in the Roman amphitheater, the Colosseum, they would do hunts where animals hunted each other. And then eventually they would have humans come out and hunt the animals. And they would go up the food chain. And the lions were second to the last in the food chain. And then the bears were the final creatures which could kill a lion. All right, so they get stronger. And the leopard is stronger because of its 4 wings, not just because it's a leopard. And then, of course, And also, by the way, it has 4 heads, so it can take on the bear. And then the final beast is obviously the strongest one, the 4th beast, which is, it says, is terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. Oh, there's that iron again in the 4th. Remember, it had iron legs. The 4th part over here, iron legs, and then same over here, the final thing of the 4 features of the vision involves iron, and it says it's more dreadful than the beast that came before it. Okay, so it's worse. All right, so again, they get more. They're noble toward the top, and then they get stronger toward the end. So that's a similarity. It's the same kind of pattern that we see in the dream image in chapter 2. But we skipped over the most obvious thing, which is that the statue is an artifice. What Nebuchadnezzar sees is an artifice. It's a man-made, man-designed structure. It's clearly designed to be both beautiful and to endure, to stand for as long as it could possibly stand. Okay, so it's an artifice. It's a statue. Whereas over here we have animals, which are a part of nature. Humans don't build bears and lions. Okay, so these aren't man-designed beasts, man-built beasts. One is, in other words, comes naturally. It's from nature, arises from nature. These beasts do, whereas the statue was constructed as an artifice. Another distinction is the fact that the artifice is a human, whereas these are beasts in chapter 7. And of course, the human isn't just any old human. It's meant to idealize humanity. It's something that humans designed and constructed to create wonder, to not just enhance the aesthetics of the city of Babylon, but to give people pride, to give them a reason to be confident in the greatness of Babylon, because of course that helps to promote the stability internally of the empire. It makes people proud to be there. You're not having to fight against the citizenry, but they themselves are helping to cultivate stability because of the wonder that people have of its very existence. So the fact that it's a human, and then when you get to chapter 7, you have these untamed, wild, instinctive, savaging, raging beasts, right? They're devouring up and fighting. In fact, not only is the first image, the Colossus, artificial, a man-constructed, it's an image of man, of humanity. Meaning of an individual man, but of a giant man. And it's meant to create a sense of wonder, a sense of the artistic wonder and the pride that Babylon could create such a monument as this. I mean, that, of course, is the way monuments were understood when they were built, such a Colossus monument of this type, many of which were built in the ancient world, were built like this in order to cultivate a pride in what that civilization had accomplished, because it helps to create stability. It helps to, instead of having to control people and force them into submission to create stability, they want to be a part, out of pride, of the great accomplishment of that particular human civilization. So that's the Colossus, and then on the side of nature, where you have the beasts, obviously animals, these beasts are the opposite of man. They're not constructed, they're not constructive, but they're destructive. They're wild, operating out of pure instinct, savaging their opponents, their enemy, their prey, and so on. So this huge contrast between what a human is and what these wild, forceful, dangerous beasts are. Okay, so that's a clear contrast there. And then the judgments. If you go to the end of the the story, we have the record of how this image is destroyed, and that is that a stone was taken, cut crudely out of the mountain and was hurled across the desert, and it smashed this huge statue. But of course, the statue was already tippy. It already had the iron toes and clay, or iron and clay earthenware feet, so it was not stable anyway. In other words, it was going to fall over either way, but that's not actually how it was judged. This rock came out and smashed the thing in its feet, and then destroyed the whole image. And when you get to the judgment of these beasts, what we have is the Ancient of Days who comes and sits on his throne, and with the clouds there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days and presented before him, and to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom. So the what's going to happen is, as the Ancient of Days takes his seat, it's right here, the Ancient of Days takes his seat in verse 9, and a fire comes out from, streams out of his throne, and that fire is going to destroy the beast. Okay, and it's when the little horn of the final beast, the fourth beast, there's this little horn that comes up out of his head, and he's speaking arrogant things, and he is the trigger for why the Ancient of Days, the throne of the Ancient of Days is fixed, and the Ancient of Days takes his seat, and then this divine figure coming on the clouds, likened to a human, to a son of man, he shows up, and then the government is turned over to him. So how are the beasts judged? They're judged not by some crude rock that is hurled at them, but they're judged by the wise, reasoning, calm, confident king who takes his throne and opens the books and judges the beasts, and then turns the government over to this divine figure who is human-like, who reigns. And of course that figure, a human, this ideal human, this divine-like figure, is referred to by Jesus at his trial in reference to himself. So it's a messianic figure even within Daniel, and then Jesus applies it to himself in Matthew 27 during his trial. So you can see the so you've got the similarities between the two visions, and then you have the contrasts. All right, now the next thing that you're going to want to do is look at just chapter 7, okay, just this story here, and what is its story internally? In other words, what do things mean within the actual vision? So we're not trying to interpret. It's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they go to read the visions in the book of the Revelation, and Daniel and Ezekiel and so on, is they fail to just look at the vision itself internally. Don't try to decode anything. Don't try and figure out what things represent or symbolize or nothing like that. Just try to understand what the vision means internally, like on its own terms. What is going on and what do things mean relative to one another? Okay, I hope that question is clear. If not, it'll be clear when we go to answer it in the next video. So best wishes until then.